Hello, welcome to another Becoming a Modern Man. We are playing Hogaak Vine once again, and this time we're running up against Storm. So this is our opening hand. It's pretty spicy, to be honest. We have Leyline, which might randomly hit on our opponent. Obviously, we don't know at this point in time. As it turns out, it does. And we have Stitch's Supplier, Faithless Looting, Altar of Dementia, Insolent Neonate, and Gravecrawler. So our hand is full of gas. This is a pretty sweet hand, to be honest, even if Leyline is kind of a potential dud, and even if it happens to be a dud, we have plenty of gas. Faithless Looting can help us find our second land drop if that becomes a problem, and then I think we probably just want to lead with Stitch's Supplier to see what we can knock into the graveyard, particularly if it's going to be a bridge, which would be very nice. So run play here, we are going to run out the Stitch's Supplier, as I say. I suppose there's an argument for maybe running out Faithless Looting instead. Or even Neonate, I suppose. Lots of options for us, but we don't mill anything particularly relevant, just a looting into the graveyard, which is fine. Our opponent plays Sleight of Hand and a Spy Buff Canal, so not sure what they're playing just yet. Blue-red makes me think it's sort of, is it Phoenix or Storm, most likely. I suppose potentially there could be some other sort of control deck. Or alternatively, then I guess there could be Delver, which seems to be a deck that seems to be getting more popular. But most likely to be Phoenix or Storm, I think, in the current environment. We're going to Faithless Looting here, make sure we get a land. We can drop this Gravecrawler into the graveyard, because Stitch's Supplier is a zombie, and we can just buy it back if we want to. And we're also just going to pitch this Godless Shrine. There's no reason to have white mana in this matchup, and I don't think we're going to need the third land that much. Not nearly as much as we want these cards. So Stitch's Supplier manages to find Hogaak, which is very nice. So yeah, just get rid of the irrelevant cards from our graveyard and put Hogaak into play. So nice 10 power here onto the battlefield on turn 2. With Serum Visions and no follow-up play. So it certainly makes me think they're on some sort of slower game plan, I guess. Most likely. I'm certainly thinking Phoenix or Storm, or some sort of control deck. It doesn't seem like an aggro deck from what we've seen so far. So we're going to attack for 10 here and then cast Altar. So we can do a lot of things here, potentially. We can start milling ourselves, sacrificing our creatures. I decide, as a sort of hesitancy, to not do that and just pass the turn. I'm conscious that our opponent is potentially Izzet Phoenix, which means potentially they've got main deck Surgical Extractions, and I don't want to get done over by that. So I decided to just pass the turn and see what happens. But yeah, as per usual, we can alter Hogaak and start milling ourselves quite a lot. Also sacking any of these Stitch's Suppliers adds an extra 3 cards into the graveyard, plus the 1 for the power. So we can fill up our graveyard pretty swiftly. But as I say, I decided that it was probably best, particularly given that we don't have any bridges in the graveyard currently, to just pass the turn here. We've got lethal on board anyway, so I think we're just going to put the onus on our opponent to beat us here, rather than try and do anything too crazy. And our opponent plays land and then concedes, obviously not seeing a way out. So as it stands, we actually don't really know what our opponent is doing. I suspect, as I say, it's probably Storm or Phoenix, in which case this Leyline actually probably did quite a bit of work to help us out here. And yeah, we managed to get the concession out of our opponent. As I say, we don't have full information on what they're doing currently, but the draw spells seem to indicate they are probably Phoenix or Storm. So we're a little bit in the dark about what our opponent is doing. As I say, because of what we suspect, I'm going to bring in the Leylines, all 3 further copies, and put them in the main deck. I think they do have some value here. I don't really know whether we need to hedge against what graveyard hate they might be bringing in. It might be worth bringing in a wear and tear or two, just because there's likely to have some sort of graveyard hate, and that is something that we might need to answer. I believe currently Phoenix decks largely just run Surgical and Ravenous Trap, to my knowledge, but there might be some running Leyline as well. So yeah, we might want to bring in one or two of those just in case. In terms of things to take out, I think it's just the usual. Probably cut a Gravecrawler, cut an Instant Neonate, maybe a Vengevine. Okay, so here we are with game 2. This is our opening hand. We don't have any lands, so this isn't any good. If one of these cards were a land, we might be able to keep this. It's a fairly good hand otherwise, but yeah, no lands, unfortunately, is a no-go. This is our 6-card hand. So yeah, we did bring in Wear and Tear as a sort of hedge against potential graveyard hate. So we've got that, we've got Neonate, we've got Stitches of Supplier, and we did get the Leyline of the Void here, so we can get that into play straight off the bat. So hopefully our information is correct. We see Bridge from Low on the top, which is not too bad. We've got Neonate to go with that, so I think we will keep that on top as well. Play Sleight of Hand, which gets exiled. Play Stitches Supplier, see where we get to. Mill some irrelevant cards into the graveyard, unfortunately. Put an Alt. Pass the turn back. We play Neonate. Gonna pitch that here to get the Bridge from Below into the graveyard, and we can make a 2/2. And potentially we can cast Hogaak. Have we got enough for Hogaak here? Yeah, so he's got just enough for a Hogaak. If we want a Hogaak, or we've actually drawn into Stitches Supplier, so we can Stitches Supplier here instead. So yeah, we'd have to have exiled a Leyline, but we could have still cast Hogaak there if we hadn't drawn Stitches Supplier. We can cast Opt in response, which is fine. Find a second Bridge from Below, which is going to be really nice if we can find a sack outlet. But yeah, we're going to cast Hogaak here, get in for 1 with our Stitches Supplier, pass the turn back to our opponent. Opponent plays Barrel, so that confirms that our opponent is on Storm. I think we're still in a pretty good shape here. We don't have a sacrifice outlet, which would probably just end the game at this point. I mean, Altar. I mean, yeah, I guess not any sacrifice outlet, but Altar would certainly end the game here, as we've got 2 bridges in the graveyard and Hogaak, as well as Stitches Supplier, so we can absolutely fill up the graveyard, and pretty confident we could just mill our opponent out from there. As it stands, we draw Gravecrawler. We're still in good position, as we can just attack in here, and then our opponent just has to. I suppose we just have to see if our opponent has it. Could keep it Wear Tear, but I don't think there's any reason to, so I'm just going to play out the Gravecrawler and see if our opponent can kill us. They're down to 7, so they definitely need to come off this turn. Pieces of the puzzle. Play Bioreactor Ritual, but they're not able to make it, and yeah, we managed to pick up the win. So fairly swift and easy win. I think Leyline did quite a lot of work there, but to be honest, I think if we hadn't had a Leyline, there's a reasonable chance our opponent could make a play at going off there and potentially win, although they never did play their 3rd land, so maybe they were struggling on mana as well as everything else. But yeah, potentially we could have died there. But I think Leyline helps out a lot there in not being able to allow them to sort of Past in Flames or Gifts Ungiven in any meaningful way. So that worked out pretty nicely, and a fairly swift and easy win against Storm.